Hello, welcome to the Viewpoint. I am Mamadou Mbodj. Transparency, accountability, and inclusive participation are generally regarded as the pillars of good governance. In Africa, however, complaints or even despair of the state of good governance on the continent has been ubiquitous, perhaps one would say since independence. But it seems we are not nearer to providing solutions to what can be described as the crisis of governance. Public power continues to serve the interests of those in power more than it serves citizens, and the latter continue to suffer the consequences. In this country, at this post-Jammeh, there has been a growth of CSOs dedicated to improving oversight of public resources and increasing citizen participation. One such CSO is the Open Society platform, The Gambia, which in collaboration with other CSOs and funding from the National Democracy Institute, recently launched its first edition of a newsletter which seeks to foster the enabling environment for accountability and transparency through citizen engagement and dialogue with key state institutions. So in the studio today, I've got the head of programs of Open Society Platform, The Gambia, Mr. Abdoulaye Jadama. Welcome to the program, Mr. Jadama.
Thank you, Mr. Mbodj. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So perhaps first the newsletter, your first launch, the maiden edition.
Yes.
So tell us about this newsletter. How did it come about? And then afterwards we talk about your organization a bit.
Thanks a lot. Newsletter, by the way, if I say it's a first of its kind, I might not be wrong because I asked the journalist about this before I mentioned it at the launching. It's all about how do we create a database, because how do we create a database in order to capture a historical fact about accountability and transparency events that had been happening over a period of either 2 months or so, or 3 months, or in a quarter, having an aggregated data, then whereby people can trace it back, and then we can use it for advocacy, and then we can use it for holding people people in power to account.
That's it. So what kind of data would it collect? Would you have in it?
Yeah, fine. Basically, as I said, this is in twofold or threefold. We are looking in generally how to capture a governance data. Then governance data in terms of corruptions, that issues that have been related in newspapers, and then they have been published, and then public have access to it, but they throw it outside. Maybe at the end of the day, use it as a collecting for breads and other stuff in the street or so. Then we came with this innovative idea that even though people will throw their newspapers, we are going to create a database of that. Any corruption issue that happened in the country in a period of a quarter and is being reported and published, then we can keep it somewhere or so. Then we come to transparency issues. Then like transparency, then it could be that like TRRC, which is about, if you look at our first bulletin, you will see that the presentations of the Dr. Cisse of the TRC report to the President, His Excellency Adam Barrow, on that fateful day in the Gambia, where everybody was excited. But if you go to so many places now, the newspaper copies are not available.
That's it. But you also realize that, of course,
yeah,
corruption comes in all sorts of guises.
Yeah.
So do you focus on certain areas more than anything? Otherwise, you can potentially chase anything, any kind of relationship where you have public power,
yeah,
using it for private gain. Any relationship could potentially be corrupt.
That's factual. For us, our focus, then that will be because of the organization, what we do in general. Then our focus is institutional building and building the capacity. When I say institution, this doesn't limit to government institution, but this is about grassroots people from the grassroots across also, because we found that awareness raising against the issue of corruption, it could be a fundamental tool of mobilizing larger consequences of the population to be part of the advocacy to see that there is a system change or so. Then our focus with the current program that we have is, one, to educate the public. We have series of programs also. Two, we work with state institutions like National Audit Office, and then we work with the Ministry of Finance, and then we are in partnership with Ombudsman, And then Ministry of Information also, we have a champions there that champion our cause also. Then these are
so these relationships, have they been formalized? Is it just some informal relationship?
No, these are formalized. So because they are related, and then we met the organization, even up to the President's office, Secretary General's office also. We have that formal relationship with the Office of the Strategic Policy also. Then these are structured and formalized. We have been a meeting with them, and then we wrote to them, and then we have, in fact, what we call champions also that are in these institutions also. Then fighting corruption, our focus is basically, if I can say that, is trying to see that it's both in the physical and then and non-physical area also. When I say physical, that is the financial resources area, and the non-physical area is the capacity building component also. Yes. Then in the program we will later talk about something also. What,
absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about your organization.
Yeah.
The Open Society platform,
yeah.
Gambia.
Yeah.
Which gives me the impression that it is international, and this is the Gambia chapter.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That is very correct, because you have an Open Society International, and then Gambia one is negotiating or also having, like, if you want to be a partner to Transparency International chapter also, you have to fulfill certain criteria and then requirements in order to become a partner to that also. In which there is a potential that OSPG has to grow and then meet those requirements to become a chapter of Open Society International also.
So right now, is it an international partnership?
No, we don't have it. This is a local group.
It's a local group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just the way you put your name, giving the impression that this is the Gambia chapter.
Yeah.
So how long has it been operative?
Well, this is last November is going to 4 or 5 years or so. This was registered in November 2017, and then we start operations in April 2018. Full-fledged operation, supporting programs and activities, and then since then we are in operation.
Okay, so tell us the activities you've been doing so far, and even possibly the effect. What effect sort of you hope it will have?
We have the impacts that we are making. First, we started this whole idea because of the philosophy or the background that I came from, that this program, in fact, the idea is based on a research. We have to do, we come out of a research, and our activities also came out of research. Then our first activity was to conduct a national survey to understand the people's perceptions about corruption in this country, and what are the areas that need a address and immediate attention. Then this was the initiative that we started in April 2018. Then in after 2018 April, then we also have another program whereby that was a radio program to sensitize the public about the Gender Commission findings in order for people to get closer to that information, to understand it also. Then when we get out of that, then our biggest program came when we initiated a partnership with NDI. And then NDI and OSPG found that there is a global initiative called Open Government Partnership, OGP. This is an elite government around the world that has 78 countries, but their main drive is about accountability and transparency in order to enhance good governance. And then we found that Gambia has a potential, because there are a lot of governance issues here. We just emerged from a 22-year of dictatorship. We are in a transitional period. The government was on a shaky ground or so, and then all the tools are not in place. Then it has a potential to see that Gambia become part of that 78 or more countries in order to have access to expertise and resources in order to build the governance system and architecture in this country.
Yes, so we've been getting resources and expertise
from
these partnerships.
From these partnerships. Because it's countries like United States, Brazil, United Kingdom, a host of big countries around the world. The G7, the G20 countries are all part of it now.
But have we now become a member? Because I think from what I read in the report, you said that we were only 2 criteria away from membership. Have we fulfilled
No, no, not yet, and then I'll come to that. Then, as I said, this is our biggest program. Then that's the time we start partnership with these relevant government institutions. Like I mentioned earlier, Minister of Finance, Justice, which is our biggest ally, to see that we move this idea across government also. And thank goodness, as we say, what are some of the outcomes? We were able to convince these key ministries, which at the beginning I found they are going to be proved difficult, to sell the idea of openness and government, considering the CSO, how CSOs and governments see each other around the world.
So you mean you had to sell the idea?
Yes.
We thought that this whole new Gambia, the coalition government and everybody around, we thought that we had already signed up to this agenda, this crusade, if you can call it that, of ridding ourselves of certain retarding practices that we do. We thought that everybody had agreed that.
No,
what do you mean you had to sell it? What did you have to do?
Well, because this, if I can put this way, it's not a new idea, but it's something that we want to consolidate. But even you are consolidating, you have to have the buy-in of the public, or people who are in power or in position or can influence positions in order to be part on your side, in order to move your agenda. Then this is the part of the selling also come to play. Then we were able to secure, as I say, in each of those ministries and key institutions, we were able to have champions. We call them OGP champions, that is Open Government Partnership champions. These are people who champion, who have the interest, they have the keen interest. They are passionate about the idea of
How do you determine that they are champions?
No, because that's their response, the response, if you call them, to be part of a program, and then they come with initiatives to see that how best we move this thing across government. Also, because before we become, the impact of OGP will not come just because you are a member. Then, but registering a member, like one, our partnership with we don't say that brings into play, but we have a very good relationship with Minister Silla at Information. And then having that relationship with NDI, working with NDI directly different from this project, and our relationship with even Mr. Silla, in fact, found that having that access to that information bill is a fundamental tools of governance. Then having it pass it to the National Assembly, then Gambia was able to score 4 points out of being going closer to be a member of OGP. These are some of the relations. Then
but this is why you want us to explore what are some of the criteria to make you eligible for membership of the open government.
Okay, fine. The membership okay. That's a good question. There's 4 criteria. One, that is physical transparency. Physical transparency. This means that you should have the budget should be the budget estimate, and then it should be published on time. The auditing should be on time, and then you should also have an anti-corruption law in your country. This is the one criteria for physical transparency. Then you have access to information. That is a criteria of its own. That's 4 points by its own. Then you have asset declaration and disclosure. You know, in the Gambia we have asset declaration, but there is no disclosure. That is another one. Then you have another component.
So that was a minus.
Yeah, because we are I'll come to that, why we are struggling still now. Then you have the fourth one is the civil society space, the government creating an enabling civil society space also. Then these are the 4 major criteria. That's why you have 16 points. Each of them carry 4. Yeah? Physical transparency, access to information, asset disclosure and declaration and disclosure, and civil society. Yeah? Then with that criteria, as I said, because of our partnership and our relationship and working with the relevant institution, that Gambia needs to be part of this club. We need resources. We need opportunities of that type, technical support and other, seeing that we are open and a free government whereby people can demand from the government, they can hold government accountable. Then we were able to have access to information. That was one of we advocate for it. And then we were engaging Minister Silla through NDI, through my office and other people also. And then they see that this access to information is passed. Though I will not say that the credit belongs to us, but we also have an effort and to see that we have that one.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we fulfill the 4 criteria.
No.
We haven't.
No.
Okay, which ones remain?
As I say, access to information. In as much as Gambia have access to information law, when it was passed on the 25th of August, if I get it right, then we are automatically qualified for 4 points. Then this means that we applauded the government through the Ministry of Information and anybody who have put effort into this, especially the media through the press union. Then the other areas that we have.
But you also realize that having the legislative framework in place, that is one thing. But for journalists, when it comes to the practice of it, to actually get information, that is an entirely different thing. So what do you judge? The mere existence of a legal, of a law, of an act, or actually how it is practiced? What is the experience of people who go to get information? We have seen this gap, this huge crevice in the body politic for a long time.
Thank you so much. I'll come to this. Let me just leave this one and then answer that question. If even Gambia is qualified, because these are criteria, just a normal criteria, but you have to have 75 percentage point for you to go to the next grade or so.
It's like ticking the right boxes.
The right boxes also. Then, fair enough, but apart from that, then the real thing comes called the National Action Plan. Then after you have qualified that, you will apply for a membership. Then applying the membership, the key document that you need to produce, that is the National Action Plan. Then the National Action Plan in that, then the work comes into play into that now. That's what we are talking about. Gambia will select how do the Gambian people have access to information as required by the law.
So who would draft the National Action Plan? The government?
In collaboration with the CSOs. This is a co-care where it happens around the world. Normally what happens is that you have the chair from the government and a co-care from the CSOs. And then they are equally represented in this committee. Then it's called a National Action Plan Working Group. But it's headed by the government. And even the application also is, even doing all this work, then we should have a lead ministry, either Ministry of Justice, Finance, the government may have to make that decision. Then they have the lead ministry who will be the chair of developing this National Action Plan. The National Action Plan will itemize all the requirements, practical requirement of governance, like I said, governance, either on transparency, accountability, on corruption, or any other thing, fit into that National Action Plan for 2 years. Then the global body, there is a mechanism called peer review mechanism. That peer review mechanism will review Gambia, whether to see that whether they fulfill or implement fully those action plans or so.
Absolutely. Let's go back a bit, then we'll come forward. Earlier on, you said that what you did first, as it were, as an organization, is to get the data, the research, the perceptions of people and all of that. So the results of that research, how did that help you to draft your action plan? How did the perceptions, as it were, help you to know what actions to implement? And examples with perceptions. It will be very interesting to go through even those perceptions of what people think.
The perceptions are that one is the understanding whether they know what is corruption or so. And then, yes, people in this country understand the corruption. They know the forms of corruption. They can tell you that who are the most corrupt institution or so. And then some of those are the perceptions around.
And what do they say? What's the most corrupt institution in there?
The most corrupt institutions are public sector institutions. And then the report is 2018 draft, but still it's on top of my head. Institutions have been mentioned, especially from government per se, but public sector government, like example like NAWEC, like GPA, the Revenue Authority, and others, agriculture, Ministry of Health, also. Then people term this police, they see them as, the most corrupt one.
So that's the perception.
Yeah, that's the perception also. Then the people take that.
So that's it.
Yeah.
So now from there,
yeah. Then
how do you tackle it?
Yeah. Then the other thing about the study was that we also try to understand the understanding and the knowledge of the public about corruption also. Then, as you said, then in 2019, we were in a partnership with other CSOs also. Then we, as I said, how do we inform our programming? Then we understood that one, public knowledge is a problem. Then there was an opportunity for us. We were able to work with other CSOs in a coalition.
What do you mean the public knowledge was a problem?
Public, like how the understanding how people perceive corruption. Like if I walk into a policeman, I can give him a $50 or so, and then it's an inducement. And then even though he doesn't ask for it, then it could be that next time I'm on the road, then the guy will not, if I have any foul or wrongdoing on the road, the guy will not just leave me because yesterday I gave him $50. Also, which is a corrupt practices also, because it's an inducement in some senses. Then understanding those things too, even the mechanisms, like by then, if people don't know about the anti-corruption bill, though it's not a law, but it's a bill. Then people need to understand this bill. Then we have a project whereby we went back to 30 communities in this country, in LRR and the CRR North, and then we talked to 15 communities in each, and then whereby we have listeners group, even not the TV, but the radio was part of it, whereby we have an online in the heat of COVID, that people sit around a radio listening to the serialization and popularization of the access to information bill. And if you call people in Balangar today, they can quote you a section in that bill, what does the section mean, and what is their input in the final bill preparations also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you also realize that knowing, having that knowledge is one thing. How you're going to use that knowledge for collective action. That's quite another as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this to you. Yeah. I mean, truly, for a very long time, we've had CSOs, all sorts of projects regarding this so-called good governance, corruption, and all the rest of it. But it seems as if there's really no effect.
That's very
for instance, when we look at this country,
yeah.
you look at, for instance, Transparency International. You were just talking about Transparency International.
Yeah.
When you look at their corruption perception index, the indices in the past few years, most of us, we've been stagnant for a very long time, as if all these programs are not having any effect.
Yeah, well, this all comes to public knowledge, is what I believe. I always go back to the public knowledge.
But this is also my point. Having the knowledge is one thing.
Yes, I'm coming.
The actions that follow.
The actions that should follow also. That's very cool. Like the last 3 years, we go to 2019. 2019, Gambia was ranked 96th position out of 180, which was a very good position for that matter, because it's mid-table also. 2020, we were down to 102. In 2021, we are the same 102. Like you said, then with all the resources and then efforts that everybody is doing, also is going to win, because at the end of the day, after 1 year, 12 months, working, talking, then there was no attitudinal change. There is no behavior change. There is no system change. Everything stayed the same. This means that investment and the energy, whatever we spend during that period, we have nothing to complain to our equivalent to explain that we fail you. Because I will take this, that's why I say philosophically why people are not changing. I believe that many parts of the world, or like from theoretical point of views, any individual have a living value. Then these things are related to that. Some of these things are ethical things, and they are moral also. Then Gambia, every day we pray, we go to mosque. But what I always ask myself, do me, Jadam Abdullah, do I have a value that I believe in? Your Mboj might be believing in honesty, You believe in transparency, you believe in hard work, caring of your family, also in heart, in your mind, but practically, we apply this thing?
So do you take it that corruption on allied vices, as it were, do you think they're a moral issue, not an economic one?
Well, doing it practically, then, well, people do it basically. It's moral in some senses, because because there should be that moral compass that conscious to tell you that what I am doing is wrong. I should not do it. It's an immoral thing. Then economically, fair enough. Whoever do whatever or so, then if you say that my salary is small or whatever reason also, I find it difficult to get food on my table. Also, that's why I take the $50 to do this thing. At the end of the day, that taking does not justify that it should happen because that is happening to you. Also, then some people do it not based on economic fact. I will give a clear example. I don't want to do that, but when you look at the mass monies that have been lost in this country, those people are not sort of having water or food on their table for 30 days.
That's it. So here we're trying to find out, to explore possible causes, because it seems to me you attribute the state that we are in, why we are the state that we are, because of moral failings. It's almost as if with us, we are sort of systematically deviant. But you know that sort of theorizing is always dubious, isn't it?
No, well, fair enough. I will agree with you on that because we are going to philosophy again on this. Yeah, but what matters here is that I'll go back to the same point again. That systemic failure, I will go back, is all about leadership too. It's leadership, because I always say this. For us Gambians, and then in most part of Africa, we are not prepared for leadership. People just walk into it, and then it's just like journalism. It's just like journalism.
But these are contentious.
No, not actually.
In the sense that, how really do you prepare somebody for leadership? It is the sort of job. Can you imagine being a president? What can possibly prepare you for being a president? I mean, you may have been perhaps a lawyer, and maybe you've had 30 years of experience of life and that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
But really, nothing really prepares you to become a president. So I'm not sure what you mean.
No, that experience of 30 years of being a lawyer or being an agriculturist, managing a set of, like somebody who manage a corporate organizations like QCell, AfroCell, Ministry of Finance, or so, and then that leadership position of 10 years of interacting with people or so, then you will develop a character, because leadership has a lot of character. You have to be a good listener, for instance. Then you have to care about people's concern. And then the series of them, then you have to respect your voice, or so, something like that. Then these are things that you learn in the process, or so. Then with those experience, then you can get it there. But most of the time, though we have all these things, like you said, it's contentious, but at the end of the day, then it's the moral compass that is also dictating who a good leader is looking like. Then in general, then you see that all what is happening in corporate organization, either public or in private. But at the end of the day, how does the leadership receive these things? For example, I will say a deaf ear was given to this $148 million saga at Ministry of Health. I'll just give an example. This was highlighted. It was mentioned by the minister also almost 17, 18 months back before the report of the Auditor General comes out. But nobody talks.
This is it. Then it takes us back to what exactly do we mean by leadership in this context? Because earlier on we were talking about how corruption seems to be all pervasive.
Yeah.
You gave an example of the NAWEC bit and all sorts. So it's almost like a wider social issue rather than purely leadership. After all, where do these people come from? They come from us. Similar attitudes, similar everything. So it appears that you assume that there's a certain kind of training, yes, that would make me sort of neutralize this attitude. Is that your belief?
No,
because it appears to me this dichotomy.
Yeah, dichotomy.
Between leadership and the people
and
being
the
something else and the social.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's a bit
but,
problematic?
Yeah, because public service, before you know better than me, people have been trained on public service. MDI and the others around the world were set up to train people on that, on ethics of public services. People are trained. This is a specialized subject area. People are trained, and then in order to build on the morals that we develop from our homes also. Then how many people of us, many of us have been rushed to become a permanent secretary, just because you went to a BAc or so, an MSc in development and economics, and then you never go into a public service school or so. Or after independence immediately, or even, or sometime 10, 20 years back, then public servants, or many of them are sent to different countries to go and study public service, or so, service purely. And then this is about public service leadership. Also, then as you say, it's dichotomic in the sense that one part is that I will say that when you come into leadership, then we will hold the people in power, either in an executive, in National Assembly, or in judiciary, or so. Then the other one, then we will go back to the public, this general society, or so. And then how do the society react to somebody when we say that somebody did something wrong? One, then a whole lot of things will come. Then the other stuff will come again. The Muslaha syndrome will start to come. People will not want Abjadama to go back home, or Mr. Mboy to go back home and hear that he reported or he talked about Abdullah did something wrong in QCell, and then it was reported, it was via Mboy that brings to the public, and he knows it. You never want to be a part of that.
But you see, this is the thing. Our formal structures are one thing. How we are informally, quite another, the social norms and all the rest of it. So it appears as if one part of us is undermining the other. Because the relationship we have, the social relationship we have, in many ways it follows us to the office.
It follows us to the office. Because, secondly, let me help you if I can. I don't know whether that would be helpful. Because I learned this thing from one of the speakers, one of these South Korean prime minister, that he said, one way to fight corruption is to start at leadership. I'll give an example. This, for example, in that particular country, the first time this man became a prime minister, there was a state minister who used the state resources. Myself and me, you have a result, and then you invite me for a holiday there, just for a weekend. I fly back to Banjul from Tendaba. The president fires me because I spent a weekend with a resort, with my friend in a resort who is a business tycoon or so. Then the philosophy is that fighting corruption has to start with leadership, and then either at any level. I don't mean when I say leadership, I don't mean even at home. Me as a father, then I have to demonstrate those people that what I am bringing home, this is what is my take home.
Oh, absolutely. It's just that the scale of the household and the country is so huge. For instance, let me throw this at you. When we take this country as an example, by most reckonings, the First Republic, most people will tell you that the president himself personally was not corrupt. You hear a lot of people say that. Yet, the wider body politic. Everything was going on.
Yeah.
He would try to be straight, he tried to get the ministers do all the right thing.
Yeah.
But because of the wider social problems, still in the end he was accused of all sorts of things. And there are some reports that said that there was quite a bit of corruption going on. So the relationship here, we go again. If you have the right leaders, then things will automatically follow. Well, I'm a bit skeptical about that. You have to do more to persuade me.
No. What I'm persuading in this is that, what I'm persuading in, I give you a South Korean example. Then, in this country, boy, you know older than me, I can say, or sure, by age, even by experience, and by around the world. How many people have been punished for doing something wrong, being corrupt? Last 5 years, let's not go from in the Sadaudas period or just 22 years. Last 5 years, how many corruption cases have been investigated, judge made a conclusion and sentencing or punishing and fining that person in this country?
But this is it. Maybe it is deep-seated. Even if I were to do something wrong, even just at the police level, nobody else will know about it. We can kill it. You know what I mean? Depending on the circumstances. But this is precisely the point, the deep-seated nature of it. You see, I'm pushing this because perhaps a good diagnosis of what our problem is, or problems are, it's really important so that we will know what actions to take. It appears to me that so far we've been talking about the moral element of our problem. What other elements impact on the situation? How does economics impact on people's attitudes and what they do? Isn't that a bigger challenge than the moral aspect? I fully understand.
The economic aspect where I said this thing, I'll go back to it again. I know the viewers might not be bothered about it, but let me go back. Because you're asking what are other factors. Because this is between two folds here. One, it could be moral. Either Boy will not do it, Abdullah will do it. Because of your moral compass is dictating that what you are doing is wrong. Don't do it. Don't go in it.
Absolutely. But this is really where our problem is. I mean, if a few people do something wrong, then I said, okay, it's really their problem. Let's deal with that at that level. Now, if I begin to see huge populations, a lot of people doing it, then I might begin to suspect that what are the societal pressures? Nobody is born deviant. You know what I mean? In fact, when we talk about corruption, we all condemn it. So morally, it seems to me, because once you've got that sense of what is right and wrong, reward what is right, punish what is wrong. That's essentially the basis of morality. We all really agree that we shouldn't do it. What are the societal pressures that make us do it?
That's what I'm saying now. I'm coming to that. One, in terms of economics, I said, the people who, like, if I'll go back to this 148 million. You will see, I'm suggesting, but the large chunk of it, I'm betting on that my life, if at all, is if they go, the data is available.
Here we don't accept bets.
No, fine. Fine. So I'm sorry to do it. If I do that, also. Fine. No, because I don't have the data, but I'm just here that the good percentage of that 448 million went to the pocket of people of my level and your level and my level.
Even perhaps the lower levels.
No, I'm coming.
Perhaps across all levels.
No, let me come. Because the mass, when we talk about, let me give you Jana Commission again. People who are enticed and indicted for corruption of that resources that has been taken out of state covers are not junior civil servants or are not public-private civil servants or so. Then the corruption is across the whole spectrum of the society. Also, petty corruption, mass corruption is all corruption. But one is that, what I'm saying, like economics part of it, I want to argue that some people like myself, I believe, and many will believe that, I have food on my table for 30 days before my next paycheck comes into play. I don't need to struggle to my fuel and everything. But at the end of the day, I'll go and rob the state with a money that is 2-3 times bigger than my salary for the month. Why? Morally, morally, there's no justification for me to do it.
That is one thing.
Yeah.
But another argument could be that structurally, I could do it. It's easy.
That's it.
You see, this is the wider
Yeah,
issue
okay,
we're talking
that's
about.
that
You see,
fine.
one is operating, isn't it, within a kind of ecosystem.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Let me come to this point again. That's why then we are working with this OGP initiative. I'll take this viewers back to that again. Then because structurally, as you said, because there are different factors into play also, then structural issues, policy issues, and whatever issues we may call it are there. Yeah? Like, okay, the budget, for instance, the national budget. Yeah? Then how transparent it is been prepared, and how transparent people have the public knowledge about how the budget is spent and other stuff like that. Then audits information, how timely the audits are happening to see that. And then, like, I can be in a position as a PS or whatever, a director. I do something bad. The next audit cycle now will come in the next 2 years or so, before, few years back. And then before they come, I left that position, even I left the country. And the other thing is that I may die, in fact. Then who are you going to audit? Somebody who died? Or you're going back to my family, try to ask them about that money. Then there are the systemic issue is both across at structural level, operational level, morally also, that comes into the social part of it, and economically also. Then there is all over. The thing is, it's more than, it's endemic. It's pandemic in the sense that it's across all our societal spectrum, and then endemic in the sense that it's deep-rooted all over.
That's it. So this is exactly my point.
Yeah.
So perhaps this might sound a bit Marxist. The reason why you see this sort of moral architecture, you call it moral, but this behavior, as it were, is perhaps because of the economic underpinnings. So people are adapting. Yes, people are adapting to this ecology so that they survive. So in the end, it might seem like perhaps greed or avarice, but actually when you look at it within its context, this is really what people will do so that they can survive. What do you say to that?
Well, like you said, this is an ecosystem that is built, and then is perversing, expanding naturally by itself because of the attitude that that we have also. Then I have to have this thing in order to live also. But always we have this thing, and when we talk about, people start me talking about live within your limit of what you're earning. And then many will sitting on the viewers will say, Jarama don't know what he's talking about or so. And then these are the things that we do, or is socially being induced by the fact that, okay, Mboj is having a fantastic home, has a nice car or so. But Mboj, there's one speaker also, let me call this guy. If you want to be rich, go to private sector and do your own business. But if you don't want to be rich, and just to have a daily meal, go to public sector. Because there's no money, there's no finance, it's only your money. But if you want to be rich, and then you want to be in the public sector to be rich, then there's no way, because at the end of the day, you will take people's money. Then this means that we are not making good career decisions then. Then that will drive me to that answer. Do we make a good career decision? Do I want to be a filthy rich businessman like any other tycoon in this country or outside? Then if I'm a public sector employee, let me pack my bag and start deciding that I cannot get money from the people, that place. If I start getting it, then this means that I will still start stealing from everyone in this country. Then to me, then this means that career choice is also another fundamental thing. Do we make a good decision in terms of thinking, what do I want to be? That's why I say that do we have a moral living values? Because we need to have a value. I want to be a businessman, I want to be rich, I want to be a this, I want to be a that, and then I want to act like this. Then do we make some of those decisions in our life earlier? Are we think about those things in our homes and other stuff like that? These are things that are also absent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah.
But you also realize that in life, we are buffeted by all sorts of pressures outside of us.
That's correct.
We may want whatever, set our targets, our ambitions, our whatever, but there is an external ecosystem within which I work.
Bigger than
So
us.
one is constantly adapting, as it were, to play well. Within the game of life, whatever I have inherited, whatever I've inherited. So this is really the key. That is why I'm quite dubious about the moral element. I mean, of course, whatever we do, there would be ethics and all the rest of it. But for me to accept the moral element, then I must also accept certain things about me, which I'm not sure I can justify intellectually.
Yeah.
The so-called corruption, it's not because of my nature, which we seem to be slipping into, to think it like that. But we know that human beings are not like that really, because we see corruption all over the world. It's just that in some parts of the world they've got certain structures which can, minimize these things. So I have to be honest, I'm genuinely not persuaded by the moral argument.
Okay. But at the end of the day, one has to put that into place, because morally, whatever we do, we are taught about this, and then even you grow with it. Also, right or wrong, that's basic, simple, and straightforward. Whether this is right or wrong, then everybody is taught about that, and then you know it at a certain age, in fact, because when a child touches a fire, when it burns, next time the child will not put his hand on the fire, because the fire will burn also. Right or wrong is fundamental also in our life. Then when we go into a broader social setting of the ecosystem that we are talking about, external ecosystem, outside and beyond ourselves and our homes also, then as I said, then always this is going to be a factor. But take it from me. If people know, I've always yearned and defined myself to say that question is, does people myself know the impact of corruption on our life? The millions or the thousands that I take home every day, I'm denying somebody of an access to quality healthcare or any other quality services that an individual need. Then if the population, the good part of the population start to have that understanding that, wow, what we are doing or what we are supporting or vilifying, then is something that impacts on our life. Then it's either way that are the public prepared to learn and understand the impact of corruption, which I believe public prepared, because the programs that we do, we have calls all over this country. Communities will come with the ideas, but how do you put these people that organize structures and then come with a formal, normal movement to be part of this crusade? That's a fundamental challenge also. But by all fact, I totally agree that moral issue, it can't be questionable when you come in terms of philosophy, because in philosophy, moral is between moral and ethics is also questionable, because you don't know at times where to place any of them. Yeah.
Given what we know, if you were in power right now, what key reforms would you introduce now?
Well, the priority reforms of this country is reforming the civil service. The reforming the civil service is a fundamental priority of this country. Yeah, any president, who is sitting for the next 5 years, I think he is going to prioritize that one. Civil service reform is fundamentally important, because these are the people who are driving the public resources, and then they are comfortable in many of few and many of the cases that is happening in this country. And then we publicly see it. At times people thought that, oh sure, as I said, if you want to be a millionaire, then go to private sector. If you want to be an ordinary person like Mr. Mboy, then you go to public sector, because where there is no big money also. Then, but we have seen it vividly in this country. Vividly. This is a clear example. People will be talking into you in the street. I will give an example. You know, so people who just work in the institutions in this country, few institutions in this country, public sector institutions, next day they can buy a compound and build a compound. You are in service for 30 years as a teacher, and then you cannot even buy a motorcycle to go to school. Why that? Then that fundamentally, the public service have to be reformed and then tailored to be based on, as I said, people have to be prepared for public service, ethical public service delivery. That's fundamental area. Then in terms of, there are many laws in this country, but they are not being implemented. How do we enforce this enforcement? How do we enforce them? That is another fundamental area that we need, because we have a lot of policies in this country, then across all sectors also, but the coherency of the policies is one fundamental area. Then the policies are, people like the local government and the central government, they have an issue when it comes into land and other stuff like that. There are policies all over in this, and different people are implementing it. Physical planning implementing on behalf of the central government. The chiefs and alcalis are implementing on behalf of the local structures. Is there any alignment? That's another fundamental area. Then, as you say, what are the key reforms? Then, like, this is a subject that I have a passion for whatever reason or so. That is currently now. Then, like, all the government, the governance spectrum, like we are talking about, access to information. You have a law, you don't have a date, in fact, when this thing is going to be in being, when the journalists can have access to that information. That law is partial, completed, passed. We don't know when the law is going to be enforced, starting. There's no date there.
And still no anti-corruption
There is
act.
no anti-corruption act. The Human Rights Act is there, and the Commission is there. You know, but how do we operationalize this to the grassroots? Everybody have access to those things, the institutions that are existing. Then, to me, as you asked, then my key area of reform is that we have to look at our civil service. How best we can come with an excellent civil. I don't say these guys are incredible performing. You know, I work with many of them, Ministry of Health directly many times or so, and then many of them are excellent. But why should I work with such an environment, and then I happen to realize that $148 million has gone into a drain that nobody can trace it down. Then
That's it. So how do you judge whether many of them are excellent?
With outcomes and the output, like the project results and the outcome that we achieve or show, and then those are incredible things or so. But at the end of the day, when all these things happen again, then I cannot come to terms with it. How challenging is these things are difficult.
Also, survey after survey after survey keep on telling us how rampant corruption is and the like. But let me just ask this. That, you know, my question, my previous question was about you being a leader. Okay, now knowing this, for you, it's about the civil service, it's about enforcement of laws, it's about the stakeholders being coordinated, all these different factors. So now, as a CSO, how would you help to engage government to take these things seriously? What strategies would you use?
So fine. Then for us, as I said, from our end, our strategies is more about engagement and dialogue. We don't push anything so hard. It's not about weaknesses or so. This, because if you want to buy and secure people, you have to have that moral relationship with them. You have to be a respect. You have to listen to the other side's story also. Then, like I said, this is what we are doing at our level. We have this big initiative across government, and many part of the government is affected by our action also, from finance to the presidency to Ministry of Justice, the National Assembly, Ombudsman also. Then we are engaging them around this particular subject, how we can create an open, transparent, and then a well-created nation for Gambia then in the coming years. This is that's the project that we are working on, and then the newspaper is part of that initiative too.
That's it. So this newsletter, I was going to come to that. It sort of will end this interview. The newsletter, and you've said newspaper as well. The newsletter.
Newsletter.
So how frequently would you be publishing, and where can one get it?
The frequency is we decide by monthly. Also, every 2 months or so, we'll have a review of all the newspapers and the works that we do and other partners also do in the field of transparency, and then we bring them. And then if you have a story, that you do around transparency and accountability outside our work or so, you are invited to send your article, and then we are going to publish it there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Will it be free, or do we have to pay for it?
No, what we issue, in as much as what we have, and then we paid it free, and then we give it to people.
So you give it to us?
Yeah, we give it to you free, and then it's available at our office. Then our office.
Where is your office?
Our office is just here, Family Planning Row, behind QCell here, Family Planning Row. Then there is where the National Youth Center is, the National Youth Council is. Then it's where our office is also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jadama, for joining us on the Viewpoint. It was very interesting talking to you
Thanks
about CSOs and transparency and accountability and all the rest of it. This is going to be a long haul. The discussion will never stop. Yeah. Thank you very much, viewers, for joining us on the Viewpoint. Until the next time, I'm Mamadou Mbodj. Goodbye.